What if I told you that the most potent root accelerator on Earth cannot be found on a store shelf? It is likely sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now, dormant, silent, deceptively cheap. To the untrained eye, it looks like simple beige dust, but this is not dust. It is a sleeping army. When you wake it up, this substance triggers a biological chain reaction so violent, so expansive, that if you tried to seal it in a glass bottle, the internal pressure would shatter the glass like a grenade. This is the paradox of modern agriculture. We are told to buy expensive chemical salts to feed our soil, yet a $1 packet of this living organism can trigger a biomass explosion of up to 30% in your garden's root systems. Why is it not sold in garden centers? Why is this technology missing from the colorful aisles of the fertilizer industry? The answer is simple. You cannot patent nature. And you certainly cannot bottle a force that refuses to stop growing. Welcome to Ancestral Garden. Today, we unleash the engine. The archive opens in the Fertile Crescent, over 5,000 years ago, long before the invention of the microscope, long before we had a word for biology. Our ancestors had already formed an alliance with this microscopic beast. They didn't call it Saccharomyces cerevisiae, they simply knew it as the life-giver. From the bakers of ancient Egypt to the brewers of Mesopotamia, this single-celled fungus was the invisible workforce that powered early civilizations. It turned grain into bread and water into safe fermented ale. It was revered as sacred because it possessed a mysterious power, the power of expansion. The ancients understood a fundamental truth that modern industrial farming has tried to erase. Growth does not come from dead minerals alone. Growth comes from life signaling to life. For millennia, this organism was the bridge between the sun, the soil, and the harvest. It wasn't a product, it was a partner. But as the industrial age dawned and agriculture moved from the field to the factory, this partnership was broken. We traded living biology for shelf-stable chemistry. We traded the uncontrollable power of nature for the predictable safety of dead salts. But the organism didn't disappear. It just went to sleep, waiting for someone to add water. So if this biological engine is so powerful, why is it absent from the shelves of every major garden center in the world? Why do we see endless rows of blue crystals and plastic bottles filled with inert liquid, but never a living yeast starter? The answer lies in one cold, industrial concept: shelf stability. The modern agricultural complex is not designed for biology, it is designed for logistics. To make a profit, a product must survive a journey of thousands of miles inside a scorching shipping container. It must sit in a warehouse for months and gather dust on a retail shelf for years without changing, without spoiling, and without acting out. Chemical salts are perfect for this system. They are dead. They are obedient. They wait until you use them. But yeast? Yeast is rebellion. The moment you mix this organism with sugar and water, it begins to work. It consumes, it respires, it produces carbon dioxide gas with relentless force. If a company tried to bottle this living formula and ship it to a store, the pressure inside the bottle would build within hours. Plastic containers would deform and bulge. Glass bottles would explode like shrapnel. You cannot put a barcode on a time bomb. Because the industry could not stabilize it, they replaced it. They convinced the world that NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, was the only holy trinity of growth. They sold us the dead salts because they were easy to ship, not because they were superior. They sacrificed potency for predictability, and in doing so, they severed the connection between the gardener and the living soil. But nature does not care about supply chains. And recently, botanists and microbiologists have begun to validate what the ancients knew instinctively. When we look at this fermented brew under the microscope, we don't just see dirty water.
We see a biochemical hijacking. Here is the mechanism the dead chemical salts fail to replicate. It happens in the rhizosphere, the microscopic battlefield surrounding the roots. When yeast cells metabolize sugar, they unleash a torrent of biological compounds. Yes, they release B vitamins and amino acids, acting as immediate fuel, but the real magic lies in the signal. As the yeast ferments, it synthesizes powerful plant hormones, specifically auxins and cytokinins. Auxin is the master switch of the plant world. It is the chemical command that screams at a root cell to elongate and search for water. Cytokinins are the architects, ordering the cells to divide and multiply. When you pour a chemical fertilizer, you are passively dumping raw food onto the plant. But when you pour this living yeast culture, you are sending an active command. You are tricking the plant's root system into thinking it is time to colonize the earth. Recent controlled studies have shown that this hormonal signal is most devastatingly effective in hungry soils, loose, sandy earth that struggles to hold life. In these hostile conditions, while chemical fertilizers wash away, the yeast latches on. Data confirms that in just 72 hours, root length can surge, outpacing untreated plants by significant margins. We are talking about a biomass increase of up to 30%. Why? Because the enzymes from the yeast are immediately bioavailable. They unlock the soil's locked nutrients, turning a dormant root zone into a feeding frenzy. This is not magic, it is biological engineering at its finest. The yeast provides the signal, the sugar provides the fuel, and the plant provides the explosion. Now the power returns to your hands. To harness this force, you do not need a factory. You only need to perform a simple ritual of awakening. It begins with water, not boiling, which kills, not freezing, which silences, but lukewarm water, warm to the touch, echoing the temperature of a living body. Into 1 liter of this water, you will introduce the army, 2 tablespoons of dry baker's yeast. But an army cannot march without fuel. Add 1 teaspoon of sugar. This is not food for your plants, it is the ignition spark for the yeast. Stir it, then step back and wait. Do not seal the vessel. Remember, life needs to breathe. Within an hour, you will see the sign. A thick, creamy foam will rise to the surface. This froth is the proof of life. It is the carbon dioxide of 1 million microscopic workers exhaling in unison. The engine is now running. But a word of warning, pure power burns. This concentrate is too potent for direct contact. You must temper it. Dilute this living brew with 10 parts of fresh water. This 1:10 ratio is the ratio of mercy. It transforms a biological shock wave into a gentle, nourishing flood. Pour it onto the soil immediately. Do not try to save it for tomorrow. The magic is in the moment. The auxins are fleeting. The life is now. As you watch your liquid sink into the earth, realize what you have just done. You have bypassed the supply chain. You have ignored the shelf-stable lie. You have fed your garden not with dead salts, but with the raw, chaotic, beautiful energy of life itself. The industry relies on your dependence. Nature relies on your collaboration. Knowledge is not lost. It is just waiting for you to add water. Welcome back to the Ancestral Garden.